Hawkins, Indiana, presents itself as the ultimate comfort food, a world built on the familiar imagery of childhood wonder and Cold War suburban tranquility. But this cozy facade sits atop a massive industrial scale. The fifth and final season carried a budget between $400 and $480 million, producing 8 feature-length episodes that dwarf typical television standards. Even a machine of this size faced disruption. The 2023 Writers Guild strike fractured the production timeline, halting work and demonstrating the heavy real-world stakes surrounding the series. By scaling the production to this level, the Duffer Brothers moved beyond mere imitation. They built a platform designed to systematically deconstruct the 1980s archetypes the show once celebrated. Sociologist Antonia Mackey identifies the Upside Down as something more than a monster's lair. It is an alternative, queer space that inherently resists suburban homogenization. She describes the boundary between these worlds as a membrane. This physical barrier holds back the abyss, while metaphorically shielding the traditional values of the era. This translucent barrier is under constant threat of infection. It stands as the only defense separating the illusion of Hawkins from a chaotic reality. The narrative structure of the final season is designed to pierce this membrane, disrupting the status quo, on a social level, a physical level, and a technical level. To understand the monsters invading their world, the characters rely on the rigid 1980s framework of advanced Dungeons & Dragons. However, the show's creators utilize historical anachronisms to break these rules, forcing the characters to outgrow the limitations of their own decade. When the group addresses Will as a sorcerer, they are stepping outside their era's logic. That specific character class wasn't introduced to the game until the year 2000. Dustin later uses the prismatic spray spell to blind his enemies, but under the actual 1987 rules, that spell's primary function was to banish creatures. These inconsistencies demonstrate the characters moving past the established rules of the decade to solve modern existential threats. We can view these social shifts through a linguistic microscope, using the Benton turn-taking model to analyze the flow of conversation. Historically, male characters in media have utilized conversational irregularities, like overlaps and interruptions, to exert dominance and control the narrative floor. In the final season, the female characters completely abandon passive stereotypes. They frequently deploy these exact overlaps and interruptions during mixed-sex interactions. By seizing control of the conversational floor, they take direct command of the plot and the group's survival. Through this linguistic assertiveness, the show rewrites the social scripts of the era it depicts. This deconstruction extends to the physical world, where ILM coordinated a global visual effects pipeline across Sydney, Vancouver, and Mumbai to visualize the dimensional collapse. The level of detail reached the microscopic. Alien spores were programmed with individual physics, reacting and swirling within the beams of flashlights. Complex simulations blended digital elements with the physical. When a CGI vine wraps around Hopper's neck, it has to realistically compress David Harbour's beard and clothing. This culminates in the destruction of the membrane wall asset, as the chaotic energy of the Upside Down physically breaches the Hawkins dimension. This high-definition dismantling of the environment physically manifests the collapse of the town's idyllic illusion. As the membrane fell within the show, the barrier between the fictional Hawkins and the real world collapsed with it. Jackson, Georgia was transformed from a quiet Midwestern stand-in into a global television tourism mecca. Visiting fans now perform rituals at these filming locations, demanding immersive experiences in themed diners and recreations of the show's sets. In Jackson, the fictional Hawkins has become the dominant reality, effectively overwriting the town's original identity with a version of the Midwest that never existed. The scale of this cultural footprint is reflected in the technical response to the finale. The surge in viewership was so intense, it managed to crash Netflix's global servers twice. The emergence of intense fan debates and review bombing campaigns highlighted the deep, real-world emotional stakes tied to the narrative's conclusion. This success resulted in an industry-shifting move, as the Duffer Brothers signed an exclusive multi-year production deal with Paramount. The series concludes by puncturing the decade it revived. Through industrial shifts, technical milestones, and the literal transformation of American towns, the membrane separating Hawkins from our own reality has dissolved.